me. I'm here with my friend Kevin from North Carolina and my other good friend, our esteemed guest, Steven Schneider, and he is from Ohio. Um, this is kind of a disclaimer in the sense that if there anything we discuss that bothers you, or there's for some reason some type of a negative trigger to your personal self, we highly recommend every time that we have an episode, it may trigger an episode in you. And so we like you to please call pound 988, pound 911 if it's that heavy of an emergency. But if we trigger you, it is not our intention to do any harm to you or anyone else. We just openly discuss topics that pretty much the vast amount of society, whether you're on the north, south, east side, west side of the planet, you are, it may trigger you, and we don't want to do anything negatively towards you. So, once again, I'm Trevor Zylstra. I'm a former correctional officer in the state of Colorado and in the state of New Mexico. And I'm not a clinician, but I've dealt with individuals in their most serious mentally dysfunctional times. So that's what helps me to adapt in the technical ability to be able to discuss things that most people won't talk about. Kevin, you want to go ahead and go from here and introduce yourself and give a background?
Everybody knows me, brother. I'm your boy Kevo or K Dog, KO, whatever you want to call me, doesn't matter. I've been called much worse years ago. I think I've retired some of those names by now. But one thing I will say is, as always, in almost every episode, well, not every episode, that would be a lie. But I've got my moments where I will say this. If we can get somebody who knows any makers of Propel or any of the admin folks, like we are looking for a Propel sponsor. Every episode that we do, I show up with a Propel water. Okay. So if we can please get somebody to reach out to the people who make Propel and tell them that they should sponsor the One Moment podcast, that'll be phenomenal. I'm gonna tag on to what Mr. Trev said though. Um, Everything we do is educational and informational only. Nobody that we know that we work with, not even the guests that that we have on our show, um, you know, agree or disagree with us. They don't sponsor us. They don't not sponsor us. Their every opinion is of ours and nobody else's. And so we do come from personal experiences, professional experiences, things like that. And so, please, as Mr. Trev said, reach out for help if you need immediate help. We're only here for a resource. We're just a resource for people. That's it, nothing more or less. And with that being said, I think we've got the necessary parts out of the way, right? So
I
let's
think
get
so.
into why we're here. Mr. Steven Schneider.
Yes, how you guys doing?
Man, I can't
Good.
complain. Can't complain.
Stephen, would you go ahead and give us some bio on you?
Sure. I live in Ohio, northeastern Ohio, close to Kent State. That's what everybody knows, a little bit south of Cleveland. And I am a middle grade kids writer, mostly fantasy. And I've got a couple series out that I'm working on. And I like to work with kids and teachers. So that's kind of what I do.
Well, we're glad to have you with us on our show today.
Thank you.
Um, how do you think would be a good way to start out talking about your history? Like how did you get started in either the artistry part or the writing part, whichever part? I don't know your involvement in that all the way. So
Writing. I had the idea to write long ago, way too long ago, because I was a Girl Scout leader and I noticed all my girls were reading, but they were reading books by that had male protagonists in them. And I was like, these girls need books of their own, books with girls doing things. And so I said, I'm going to write one. And of course I didn't. I drug my feet and it took multiple years before I finally sat down to actually write. But that was kind of what got me thinking about it. It just took me a while to actually implement that aspect of it. And then when I started, like a lot of people, I had no clue. And I was originally trying to write, I was trying to write a book for the girls, and then that was horrible. And then I wasn't sure what to write, and I was trying to write a book that I guess would have been a adult thriller, but it was not a good adult thriller at all. And I had some author friends kind of say, you know, why are you trying to do that? You're a kids writer. I mean, you do stuff with kids. Your stories sound like kids stories. Be a kids writer. And that was what it took. And that was where it clicked and everything kind of took off from there. So there's lesson number one for other authors. Don't try and force yourself to write something you're not really invested in, something you're not good at.
No, you're absolutely right. You just literally spoke about a personal experience that I had. And so here's my experience, right? And I love that you said don't force yourself to write something that you're not interested in. I was working on a PhD, and I wanted to do a qualitative study, and I had it all planned out, figured out, like I already had the kind of outline of it, right? And it was going to be a phenomenological research study. And I got with all my chair and everything, and they literally said, "Well, Kev, since you're studying more of a counseling type of topic, you should do uh, a quantitative study, right, and look at all these stats and numbers and stuff like that." And I ended up taking all but dissertation, also known as an ABD, on it. I never wanted to do a quantitative study. I wanted to focus on the qualitative study. And even one of my last tutors that I've talked to my one of the last tutors I had, and I've talked to several people since then. And they asked the same question: Why did you write and do something that you didn't want to do, that you didn't feel confident or comfortable in? And I'm like, because somebody else told me to do that. Somebody else encouraged me to do that, and so I proceeded to do that. And
or you think that's what you should do.
Right, because somebody else is putting that idea here, and it's not your idea, it's not your desires, it's not your goals or your dreams. So that's why I love what you shared. Sorry about that, Trevor. I know you were about to ask him a question, but he literally sparked an idea in me from my own experience that I had 2 years ago.
That's quite all right. You started a good topic. Because I have to be honest, there have been many times where I thought, you know, you should write a book. And I'm pretty linguistically advanced. Um, I don't do very well with the structure of everything with conversation, even, whether it's written or spoken, but I can adapt to it and keep going through it. So the cool thing is that we actually get to speak with somebody who's dealing with the kids aspect of it. And that's really important because from my perspective, I think the things that we discuss with our children and young people is to give them the tools to help them get further down the road when, you know, things progress to the time where they get to be leaders. So with that idea, do you think that the writings that you're doing is really advantageous to young people to help them progress in their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. In a couple ways. Two ways that I could think of off the top of my head that I work with a lot. The first is the escape from the world through fiction. And some people don't understand how that is necessary and needed. They think, well, they're not learning, their numbers. They're not learning history in this. They're not learning this book stuff. So that can't be important. And it's so wrong. I had the same issue as a Boy Scout. They were more focused on let's earn badges than let's raise kids to be adults. And I tried to get through to them that the badges don't matter. I don't care if every single kid doesn't earn a merit badge, if nobody ever makes Eagle. But if these kids grow up to be good adults, then we've accomplished our mission. The badges are just the vehicle that we use to get them to be good adults, to teach them, to get them to learn, to experience the world. But their focus was on just earning the badge. And that's just like nowadays, the standardized test in school. The kids learn how to take a test, but they don't learn anything. And I think in especially today's world, there's a little bit of stress going on. There's some craziness going on. It seems to be getting worse. That the mental break kids can have by reading a fiction fantasy story is immense, that people don't understand. They can't measure it, but it's something I think is so necessary. And we thwart that on so many levels. People say, "Oh, I never liked to read." Well, you talk to them a bit. Why didn't they like to read? Because in school they were forced books that suck, that nobody cares to read. We only read it because we were told we had to, so they don't like to read. Well, then we're not accomplishing our goal. I'm like, why don't we worry more about getting kids reading and then figure out if they want to read Catcher in the Rye or To Kill a Mockingbird or Odysseus or whatever it happens to be? Because most kids aren't going to want to read that, and forcing them to read it is not going to help them. And then they miss out on that. I think reading is such an escape for a lot of people, and it's a good escape. There's multiple other ones. One of my other favorites is video games. I can talk about video games and that too. But I think mental health wise, that reading a good fiction book that kids are enjoying, it can help them. I heard you say, Kevin, it's like a reset. They can handle things better afterwards. If you're constantly being bombarded with stress without any type of release, you end up, not just getting ulcers, but that stress level just affects you in so many ways. You can't sleep. You can't learn other stuff. So, I like to tell parents, teachers, and a lot of teachers agree with me, but they're kind of hands tied. But I talk to homeschool parents and stuff. I'm like, let your kid read whatever they want. Once they're interested in reading and they want to get back to the books they want to read, then you could worry about some of the books that they should read for whatever reason. I've got a friend author that he got multiple teachers, parents that left reviews for him saying, "Oh my God, I'm so glad my kids discovered your books. I've got kids in my school who hate reading, never wanted to read. I gave them one of your books and they asked for more." That's how you do it, So whatever got me off on this ramble, there you go. That I think kids should have more fiction books and read more just for fun, not because they have to read something for an essay or questions.
I completely second that. I mean, this is the best episode so far. I love this guy. Do you know the reason I love him, okay? And the reason I love this episode is because when exactly like everything you're saying, when I was going through middle school and high school, I hated reading. There was one select set of books that I found that I really enjoyed and loved. And when I got to high school, they didn't have it anymore. So I didn't read. I quit reading. I hated reading. I hated comprehension. I hated English. I hated all of that stuff. Now I'm into reading. I'm into, I'm taking a philosophy degree right now, but you're right. Give people what they want to read first, because reading is reading regardless of the type of reading it is.
And I love what you said too. We have English class, reading class, but it's usually learning to spell, learning grammar, and writing small essays on stupid topics. It's not actually reading or learning how to read or enjoying reading, which I don't understand. I've talked to a couple of teachers. I think, and I'd love to push this through the education system, I think we shouldn't even worry about spelling and grammar until they're like in 5th grade. Just get them reading and get them telling stories, not necessarily writing. They can read into their phones or recorders and transcribe it. But honestly, let's be serious. How many of the kids nowadays have to worry about spelling? What time in their life are they not getting something that checks all their spelling immediately? So it's almost a non-issue anymore. And grammar, same thing. But I learned as a writer that I was taking classes, courses. I went to conferences. I read books on writing, and I was trying to get all this knowledge so I could write the perfect book. and my book was so horrible. It was 30, or it was like 50% read, and I ripped half of it out. The first book, it was horrible. But what really mattered was I had to write a book and get writing under my belt and some short stories for all the learning to make sense. So it doesn't make sense to me to teach kids how to spell, teach kids grammar, and then teach them how to tell a story and read. We should just worry about the stories and reading first, because then the grammar and the spelling and all that will come way easier than having to push it on them for 8 years, 9 years, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I can totally like relate to that, and it correlates to my personal experience because even though I did actually like the learning part of it, when I got to be about fourth, fifth grade, they're starting talking about topics that were requiring me to use my imagination. And even up till today, I didn't really develop it in such a way that I can just imagine this or that happening, because I've seen it happen from other people and using their works as resources. But I can cognitively be aware of the fact that allowing young people to use their imaginations and developing that so that they can be motivated enough to do the practical work like the English and the grammar and literature and spelling, all the history that helps them progress into their own unique way of understanding. So I can't like explain well enough how your work, how important it really is, but it's pretty much speaking for itself in the sense that you're helping other young people, especially kids, use their minds in their own unique way. And that
oh,
it's that's our, I was just going to say it's a type of freedom to be able to use your mind the way that you want to.
100%. And that's actually something else I try and work on. I'm trying to build this up. I've got articles and things I put up on my website and my YouTube page and stuff. I call them imagination inspiration. I know, not super original, but it gets the point across. And the idea is to, we give writing prompts to kids, but this is writing prompts, but it's visual pictures. And then encouraging kids to write stories. In the back of all my books, I have some writing prompts based on the story they just read. And these imagination inspiration clips I do are some visualization prompts for kids to tell stories. And I tell parents, I talk to them, they're like, oh, well, they don't know how to write yet. I'm like, so what? Don't they babble and tell you a story? And we don't encourage that enough with kids. I mean, I remember growing up in Scouts, sitting around the campfire, we would sit for hours telling stories. And we don't do that in today's world. We have too many screens. We put kids in front of screens to babysit them. Parents don't want to be bothered to listen to their rambling stories, but that's what kids kind of need. And that fueling that imagination is where we get our math and science. I mean, that's been shown to be linked in many studies through many years, that the creative arts are linked to better science and better math. And yet everyone wants to complain that, oh my God, our science and math scores are dropping so low compared to other countries. Okay, well, then what we're doing doesn't work. Maybe you should try something else. But we need to teach harder, because that always works, is forcing kids to learn harder and learn more. Seriously.
Yeah, prescribing like a prescription a doctor would write for you. They have no idea what it's going to do to you, and they can write it off, and it's made out of whatever, and you just got to deal with it. They can write it, but you just got to deal with it. And so
I knew some parents at one point that me and my wife were young, just about to have kids, and they had a 9-month-old, and they're like, oh, we just don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, why? What's wrong? They're like, oh, we took them to the doctor to get them prescribed on Ritalin because we just can't stand it. And I look over at the kid. I'm like, why? What's wrong with them? They're like, well, look at him. Can't you see that? How could you put up with that? It was a baby still crawling around and grabbing things to put in its mouth. And that was so crazy. They had to get this 9-month-old on Ritalin. That's our problem with, I'm like, he seems very fine to me. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's insane.
it is.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead, Kev.
oh no. So I was just thinking that, on what you're saying though. I remember before I left to go on medical leave, and for the recent situation in San Antonio, I was running a group, and somebody had, the individual must have been 18, maybe 19. I mean, couldn't have been no older than that. They were talking about how, they couldn't stand the anxiety and the depression, things like that, and how they've done thousands of medications, nothing ever worked. And I said, that's the problem with the younger generation. I said, because we want a pill for every damn ill. You know, we've gotten to a point in society, and I love what you're sharing, right? I love what you're sharing. We've gotten to a point, I think, in society where I don't want to feel, I don't want to think, I don't want to act, I don't want to do, I don't want to say, I don't want to blah 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 blah, add to that list infinitum. And I think by getting away from those things, right? By not reading, by not doing the things that we were meant to do, early on in our development, I think that is taken away from our self-awareness, our self-understanding, our ability to even understand our emotions, including other people's emotions, the ability to, the old adage of what, your generation taught me, Mr. Steven and Trev, y'all's generation, what y'all taught me growing up was read the room. What does your, audience say? What is the body language telling you as far as like what you're doing and saying, and whatever you're teaching about, what have you. So we've gotten away from those things, and I think, I love what you're sharing, because I think it's the essence of getting back to, right, and incorporating those the some of the original principles. And that's the one thing that really came to my mind as you said that, there's a pill for every damn meal, and it's like, just because I have anxiety don't mean I need a damn Xanax, and I don't mean I need a freaking Valium. Just because I'm depressed doesn't mean I need some, damn antidepressant. Just because, I have a little bit of physical pain doesn't mean I need a damn opiate. And I think it's, I absolutely agree with you.
And I think a lot of that, you mentioned like anxiety and stuff, and we're seeing more and more cases of that in kids. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. It's a worldwide, epidemic. But look at what we have with our kids. You see all the memes online where they're going, Gen X, really, you guys were outside all day long and you ran
Yeah,
around, and oh my god.
we were.
And these kids are like, no, you're lying to us, because all they've ever known is sitting in the house. The only time they go outside, they get scared to be out there, and they got to go back in. But well, there's nothing to do out here because I don't have my screen to sit and look at, and I don't have something to push entertainment on me. So I don't, I don't have anything like that is entertaining me. You know, that's where reading comes in. That's where going outside and playing comes in. You build those skills and muscles, and we don't have that as much with the kids. I'm going slight jump on that. So one area, and this gets astounding to most parents and kids, is video games we've got. So I know video games, I just said, get kids away from screens, get them out of screens. I still believe that 100%. But I grew up, I had an Atari the year it came out. I've had computer game systems my whole life. I've played so many video games for so long, but I was also in scouts. I went camping. I was in band. I did all sorts of activities. You can balance and do all of those things. And video games now are such a huge industry. And what I open the eyes to parents and kids is there's more than just sitting there playing a video game. You can actually make video games. And with the tools they have nowadays, that kids can make video games. And that is such an eye opener, not only to the kids, but to the parents. And it's one of those things, kids have anxiety, they have problems because, I've got some older kids, I've got some older stepkids. And basically, when they're going through a manic phase of something, or they're freaking out about something, or they're very depressed, anxious, it's mostly because what do I got to do with my life? What is there? Everything's crap. I can't get a job. I don't enjoy my job. And this is where the anxiety builds up and happens. They don't have control of their life, and they don't do anything they feel that matters. And that, I think, is the boiled down essence of some of the problems we have with all the younger people. And what I tell parents is that video games are something that kids can do now as far as creating them, starting when they're in school, creating video games. I've got tools to show them. I teach classes. I've got a book. Here, I'll show you. See, I got a book. This is the first one of a series. But it's about teaching kids and their parents that they can make video games now when they're in school and create a portfolio. Because here's the crazy thing. The video game industry, most companies looking for people to hire. Now, let me specify, it is not all coding. Everybody thinks, oh, I don't want to be a coder. I don't want to be a computer geek scientist. No, there are so many jobs in the computer industry nowadays that you don't have to code. You can do other things and help make video games, just like the football industry. There's a lot of things you can be involved with the football industry without being on the field. But with video games, what these companies look for is experience and finished games. And it doesn't necessarily have to be AAA titles that you spent 5 years on. So if kids are in school with the tools I show them, they can create video games, complete video games with everything happening. And even some of the tools allow them to publish it to like Android and Apple stores. When they turn 18, they have a portfolio like an artist. They can show a game company, and guess who might get a job and get hired because of that portfolio? Guess who the companies are not looking to hire? People with 4-year degrees, but no experience creating video games. So I tell parents, you're worried about the kids going to college. You're worried about their future career. You're worried about them doing something so they feel fulfilled. They enjoy their life. They enjoy their career. Well, would you rather have them playing video games or making video games? Because believe me, the one I can see it in my class. I was one of those kids. I played, you name a game from the 80s, I played it. I'm sure I had every system from the 80s into the 90s. You can see the kids when I talk to them about this, teach them in these classes, the ones that go click like, oh my God, this is amazing. All they want to do is make games now. They get bored with playing games because they'd rather make them. Those are the ones I'm trying to reach and talk to, because those are the ones in 15 years that are going to be making the really cool video games with whatever HR, VR, holographic technology we have going on at that time. So I use video games as a vehicle for kids to take control of their lives and have a career path, and something parents didn't realize could be something they could do.
That is an amazing thought process and progression to help young people use their imaginations to substantiate what they're going to be doing later on in their life.
Yeah.
That's an amazing gift. Like, that doesn't just happen by accident. It's being filled with purpose, reason, direction, focus, all these good aspects of it. And yet the collective group of society is like, well, they're not doing this by this certain way. They haven't gotten to this level of learning. It's okay. Even if they're using their imagination, they're still learning. They're learning positive things to be able to be a productive member of society and a helpful one, so that maybe they're dealing with something that they can provide someone else the tools and resources with that they need to deal with something that they've got to deal with.
Yeah.
So, man, it is excruciatingly critically important progress that you're doing, Mr. Steven, that it's amazing, because even though I'm an 80s guy, and I remember I couldn't even barely do Pong. Like, really, I could maybe get to like a second or third level. I'm like, oh, this is boring. I'm going outside. So I'm an outdoors guy. That's what that evolved me into. I tried a few times. There were a couple of video games that I played. Tempest was a cool game where you turn the dial and it goes around and shoot the spikes that are coming out. I did okay with that one. But all the video games that everybody else could do, it was just because of the affordability of it. Because I was a very poor family member, and we didn't hardly have any. So I would go to the arcades and watch everybody else playing them, and just, okay, that's cool. I'll go back outside. So
Well,
so Kev, that's kind of sometimes why I bust your chops a little bit about, man, you're a grown man playing video games. Come on, get outside.
Well, now listen. In my defense, okay, I grew up in the tech era. Okay, when tech really took the boom in the late '90s, early 2000s. So I posted a picture on Facebook earlier, on my personal Facebook, of all my Apple equipment right there on the couch, and I got a big Apple iMac, an Apple laptop, another Apple laptop, another Apple laptop, an Apple iPad, like everything Apple, including, you know what,
yeah.
the big telephone. Everything is Apple, right? And so I also grew up in the world's best video game era, Sony PlayStation. And so for me, I don't know how to build and create video games. I did do some coding, tried to do some coding once, but never got into it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I
So
will say, I enjoy I enjoy playing the games because that gets me. It's almost like a self care thing where, and now mind you, I'm not one of those that gets mad and freaking just goes haywire like I've seen people do. I mean, I play video games because it's different than doing the podcast. It's different than doing my job. Like it takes me, like it's kind of like a self care, relaxation type of thing. I love playing the game, but I also know that if I'm not careful, I can get zoned out and I won't get nothing done.
right. So,
So
so here I got a couple things for you guys. Let me ask you a question. Do
okay.
either of you enjoy sports, baseball, football, hockey, watch sports on Sunday or Monday nights or whatever?
I kind of do. I mean, I never became very advanced in my abilities to do them, but I did the basic thing.
But
Most of it.
do you watch pro football, pro baseball, anything like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll watch it, but I never became active in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this, Trevor. Why in our society is it more acceptable for adult men mostly to sit on a couch and watch football all day long, but that same man playing Assassin's Creed for an hour gets denigrated or laughed at? Why is the football thing better? Because to me, football seems much sillier than playing video games.
Right. And maybe I can connect with that because I watched football, but I never played it. I never got on the team. I wasn't uh, conditioned to
Right,
just
right.
be acceptable that my efforts were good enough. So I'm like, I'm not good enough at that. So why the hell bother with it?
Right. But in our society, we are very accepting that, my husband and his friends are watching football. They have the sports package and they're going to sit on the couch from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they spent the whole day Sunday just watching football, eating nachos. That's like the
Nope.
laughing meme. But
Right.
anyone that says, well, yeah, last night I finished up whatever video game. We'll use Assassin's Creed. Hey, I played Assassin's Creed. Oh my God, you play video games? Well, wait a minute. Why is that bad? But sitting on the couch watching somebody do something and play, run around chasing that funny ball. Why is that okay? I think it's just a perception in our society, and I think it's changing a bit. I think more of the younger generation. I've seen a couple reports that the 20-ish year old kids are more into playing video games than they are watching pro sports. And I know pro sports has taken a bit of a nosedive, not huge nosedive, but it's not climbed as greatly as it used to until Taylor Swift went to a damn football game, and then every woman in the world wanted to watch football all of a sudden. But that's
Yeah.
but,
I wasn't even aware of that because I don't watch that much. I only watch one team, but
okay. So what I tell parents is one of the things changing in our world. So pro football and pro baseball have been around for quite a long time. They're huge industries in our country. and pro sports in general around the world is big. Well, parents say, well, I'm not going to mess with video games. I want my kid to play baseball and football and be sports oriented because they're going to be famous on the field and make lots of money and support me in my later age. How little often does that actually happen? If a kid starts playing football and pee-wee football, the percentage of those kids that make it into high school ball is in the single digits. The percentage of those kids that play college ball is even less. And the percentage of the college kids that go into pro, it's like, so the kids that start at Pee Wee, it's like a 0.00013% of those get on to professional football. So how much time and effort are parents spending to get their kids to play these games? That doesn't go anywhere for them. But the kids into the video games, there are many, many opportunities, and learning video games at a younger age has a much greater chance of getting them a job right out of school. And we're talking, I saw an ad for PlayStation. They were hiring for beginning developers, and the base pay was $94,000, no college degree needed.
What?
Yes.
I've never made that kind of money, and I've been working for 45 years.
Yep. So what would you tell parents? Yeah, spend your time and evenings running around the football games and baseball games and buying all the gear, or buy this software package and your kid can learn how to make video games, which seems like a more viable, logical career choice when they're in fourth grade. You know, that's all I'm saying with that. Make your own decision. But as far as making the video games goes, Kevin, you mentioned, I program. There are so many tools now that you don't have to see a line of code ever. It's more about the design of the game. And that's what I use for the kids. So that book I showed you, I teach classes with a system called Bloxels. And I've had kids as young as third grade come to the class, and within 10 minutes, they're sitting there playing a video game that they created. Done. Running around, jumping, chasing enemies, everything. The system is designed for young kids. It handles the framework. It handles the mechanics and the rules. And I should have had one. It's got a board and you put colored blocks on it, kind of Minecraft-like. And then the app takes a picture of it and translates those blocks into enemies or platforms or power-ups. And it just makes the game like that. And that's what I use to show kids, hey, you can make video games in 10 minutes. And the funny thing is, I get plenty of parents sitting at the class that grab a board and start putting on blocks and wanting to do it. And I'm like, this is designed for kids, but parents get into it because of the ease of use of getting into it. And then I introduce them to the other tools. Obviously, that system is not going to build you a world-class game that you're going to release on Xbox. There are other tools, but it's what gets them hooked, what gets them into it. Just like we talked about with reading. Once they're hooked into it, then you show them the tools that are like, oh my God, what am I looking at? But you still don't necessarily need to learn code. You can be a level designer. You can be an artist. And what I work on a lot is narrative design. It's only been in like the last 15 years that they actually had a title for the guy on the video game team that wrote the story, wrote the things that people say. And now there's whole departments that do just the story parts of video games, the lines that characters say and stuff. So you can be a writer and make video games. So that, Kevin, there you go, Kevin. That's what I always tell people. Don't think of it like, oh my God, I could never do that. And the other great thing about video games is here in Ohio, I think other states may be like this too. You kids in high school can now earn a varsity letter for esports. So your kid can play video games professionally and earn a varsity letter and letter jacket. And the reason they did this is because the colleges in Ohio have esports teams, but they had to recruit from outside of the state. So I say you don't have to have college, but if you're a great esport player, you could get a college degree to go to Ohio State and get a 4-year degree just playing video games. And people are like, oh, that's crazy. Really? Do you think it's crazy that kids play football well and get scholarships? It's really no different. Difference is video games are open up to the kids that could never be good enough on a football field, could never swing a bat good enough. It's open to the kids in the wheelchairs. It's open to the girls. That's changing now too. My old martial arts instructor, his daughter is #1 in the state for wrestling right now. So, girls are getting into sports, but video games have always been all inclusive for everybody. They even have new adapters. Xbox has a really good one that it's a modular controller to fit whatever disabilities kids might have. If a kid has a limb disability where they don't have the full limb, you can adjust this controller with different modules so they can play video games and be on esports teams to play video games, even if they can only use one arm, if they're in a wheelchair, if they, can't see well. There's all sorts of things. So you can't do any of that with baseball or football. You can play baseball or football video games, though. So there you go. I rambled. Sorry.
That's okay. I like to establish the establishment of allowing these kids to use their imaginations and be open to what's going on inside their heads, and giving them the tools that they can use to develop something all on their own, unique to them, and they can proceed down the road and move forward and upward in the progression of their careers before they're even out of high school. That's we didn't have that kind of opportunity.
Right.
It was all for me it was all get your ass to work, join the union and all these other things. And I didn't have those opportunities because I don't come from a family that has money. Right. So
I always kind of say it's like your kid can train for this now. And let's say they wanted to be a script writer for movies, right? Would we tell kids, oh my God, movies are unstable. You're never going to make money in movies. You can't get a job in movie industry. We know that's not true. There's so many people making so much money in the movie industry, even with the problems we've had. And there's new avenues with all the streaming. There's probably more movie jobs now than there have been in years. And if somebody said, I want to be a script writer, well, you go for it. Go to school, learn to write stories, go get a job. We're good for that. But let me ask you, 100 to 120 years ago, do you think parents were like, yes, go be a script writer for movies? No, we were still in the silent era. Movies were this rare thing you did on a Saturday afternoon for a nickel and you forgot about it. You're crazy if you want to not work on the farm or not work in the auto mechanic shop or not do this, that, or the other thing. You're crazy if you don't want to be a farmer and you want to go write movies. How changed is that? How many parents encourage their kids? Yes, get into the farming industry. That's where the money's at. We need farmers, but that's not what you hear nowadays. But people don't blink an eye if their kid wants to write scripts for movies. But video games are at that point where movies were 100 years ago. Give it a few more years and it won't be anything for people to say, I'm getting into video games. Oh, that's a smart move. That's a big industry. There's a lot there. We just, as a culture and as a world, haven't gotten quite there yet.
Right. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, sorry, I've been babbling a lot.
No, you're okay. You're doing great. We're loving the conversation that we're having. It's open. It's organic, and I like that.
Oh yeah, no, you are not babbling. I was trying to find my unmute button. But yeah, no, listen, like this is what we typically tell people whenever they come on our show, right? Is like, it's your show. We're just here to follow and wherever this thing goes. No, I mean, I've been sitting here listening, and it was interesting. One thing that comes to my mind is my brother is in school now, and he's going for computer engineering. And see, 50, 60 years ago, there was no such thing as that.
Right.
There was no such thing as crypto, Web3, none of that stuff, right? And so, like, I look at like everything you're saying, and I look at what both of you are saying, and look at how times have drastically changed.
Yeah.
In the last 30 years,
Last
and in the last 5 too, right? And I mean, I'm just amazed at that, because you can make more money going out of high school with no degree going into computer engineering anywhere in that industry, versus going to go spend 6 years, get a counseling degree, and go make 60,000-70,000 a year, right? Yeah. Or I mean, even being a high school teacher or a middle school teacher,
if you're lucky to make that much,
right?
Exactly,
right. I think some of them. I think a lot of teachers are in the 30 to 45, maybe 50,000 range,
which is criminal.
Right. No, absolutely, it's criminal because
I agree with that 100%.
and so to see where times have changed is baffling, amazing, shocking, ecstatic to me. But now I do have to ask though, okay? Because we can talk about all the goods and the pays and all that. Like we can talk about all that. My question that comes to mind is very first question I think should be asked is, what are the downsides of this
That's a
whole
good
endeavor?
question. Everything has downsides. And sometimes I don't talk about those with parents because if they're just hearing some of this, you don't want to get them go, oh, well, those downsides, forget about it. Let's talk about your brother real quick. Computer engineering, solid place to go, solid thing to do. But what I would tell you is have him look into cybersecurity. If you really want to see what's going to be growing and hot for like the next 20 years, it's cybersecurity. That's the part
It already is hot right now.
it's very much so. Yeah. I mean, engineering, yes, that's not going to change, but it also isn't the explosive growth we have right now with cybersecurity. So if you're looking for the jobs, you're probably going to have more coming out in cybersecurity over the next 20 years or so. Just saying. But in video games, yeah, there are issues. First of all, like any job, just because you're trained in it doesn't mean you're going to land that job. If they're working on whatever Assassin's Creed 27 or whatever it is, they might have the team all together. They don't need another narrative designer to come in. So you might have great credentials, but you apply to Activision and they're like, yeah, we don't need you. And they may not need somebody for 3 or 5 years. So it's like anything. Just because you have that, you got to get out there and hustle to get those jobs. There are things you can do to mitigate some of that. But the great thing is, with the tools I teach, if you don't have a job with a company, you can still make games on your own, still publish them to the stores, and still sell them on your own. Nobody has to control that. That's a benefit, when you don't have that job. And some people, that's all they want to do. Undertale, that guy spent 5 years of his own life, and now he's a multimillionaire. Um, the other downside is the way the industry works now, and this is changing, is that teams get hired to make a game and it grows. And you've seen some of these games. I do a podcast for Geeks, and my co-host, his nephew, worked on the Hogwarts Legacy game. And that was thousands of people. You have to sit through 10 minutes of credits just to get to his name. Trust me, you have to sit through 10 minutes of credits till you get to his name. But anyway, so they have thousands of people working on these games. The thing is, though, once that game starts to wind down and they're releasing it, they don't need all the level designers. They don't need, so people get let go. And it's not always, well, we're just, temporarily. A lot of times it's like you're being hired for that one project. So then you have to go find that next project. Sometimes you work for a company and you're like bouncing from internal created games job to job. But a lot of times you're getting hired to go work for whatever game is being made for the next 3 to 5 years or whatever it is. Or if it happens to be one of the Elder Scrolls for the next 17 years. So that's a downside. But again, the good ones, like any industry, the good ones get heard, get known, and they keep working, they keep getting jobs and keep getting hired. And there are now classes and schools teaching video games. I know Kent State has some video game classes. I have a friend that works at a school out in San Diego, but his whole thing is narrative design and teaching that at the school. He actually did some of the story work for the Ultimate Alliance Marvel games on the 360. He also did some of the story work for Cuphead that came out, which is a brutal, brutal video game if you've never played it. Old school brutal. But so that's when, one of the dangers is he's like, yeah, I worked this job and then I didn't get another one for like 7 months. So it's not as steady, say, as, working at Arby's or something. But on the flip side, there are also opportunities in video games that you don't get in other fields. Like I said, working on games that you can create yourself.
I have to ask before Trevor asks you because I see Trevor's about to hit the unmute button. I have to ask. We've got the greatest video game of all times coming out November of this year. Grand Theft Auto 6.
I am
Now, go ahead.
no, please finish.
Okay. I just wanted to see if you know anybody who was working on the development of that game because we've been waiting like 30,000 years for it.
Yes, yeah.
Now, hold on a second. Before you guys get going, I have to admit the one video game that I do like playing and was reasonably good at was auto driving or racing, or I don't know about Grand Theft Auto because you get out of the vehicle and interact with people and stuff like that. But the driving games, I always did real well at them. So,
Well, to be fair, Trevor, the game Carmageddon, you also interacted with people, just in a completely different way. Kevin, if you never played Carmageddon, it's literally a driving game where the more people you hit, the more score you get. Great video game. GTA, I have not talked to my buddy. Actually, I know a couple people in the industry. I haven't talked to them in a while. I don't think any of them are involved with Rockstar. Um, that would be great. I didn't even know my buddy's friend was involved with Hogwarts. He didn't know until the game came out and they were talking at Christmas. And he's like, what? So that would be cool though. And I will say, Trevor, if you've never played GTA, I know I didn't play them for the longest time because I'm like, oh, I was that person. Oh, this is teaching bad habits. This is that. This is the other thing. They are a lot of fun and they have really good story. And it's like anything else. Just because you're playing a game where you're a thief and you're beating on people and shooting people and stealing stuff doesn't mean it's a fantasy. Doesn't mean you're doing that in real life. I'm a musician. I play music, but I know a lot of people that became musicians by playing Rock Band. And I know a lot of people say, oh, just learn a real instrument. Well, then by that argument, just go be a real race car driver or put on a helmet and go be a real pro football player. It's fantasy. That's what the video games are. Anyway, Kevin, I will actually ask around with a couple friends to see if I do know anybody in that industry with GTA. And, maybe I can even get a preview build of it or something. That would be awesome.
That would be so freaking awesome. I will keep it off of social media. Okay, completely off of social media. I want a backdoor type of, scene or just anything I can do.
If nothing else, if I know anyone or find anyone I know or some contact, maybe you can get them on the podcast. If nothing else, before.
Hey, listen, absolutely.
That's coming on for sure.
Now, with that being said, okay. No, we're not hanging up. This is not an end of thing here. Okay. I just want to make sure that the public understands. Yes, we are a mental health podcast. Okay. We're mental health, et cetera, related podcast. We're having a great time. We're talking about video games. We're talking about a lot of different things. This is a resource for people. Okay. This is a resource, and then we're going to continue the convo on wherever it goes. But this is, you have video game hotline addiction, video game addiction hotlines. Okay, you have online.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. You have Online Gamers Anonymous. It is a 12-step program. You have the mental health hotline 866-903-3787. You also have SAMHSA, and you also have Gaming Addicts Anonymous. You also have, of course, Veterans Crisis Line. So if you are needing any resource, you can use those resources. You also have the free gambling addiction hotline, because I know there's some overlap between video gaming and gambling addiction. So I just want to make sure that yes, we're having a great time. We are having some laughs. If you're listening to us, not watching us, we're having a blast. But I do know that some of this stuff can be triggering for you. So please utilize your resources. And a lot of people are into the gaming industry and the video and the computer tech like this young man is, and that's okay. Like this is his job. It's part of his job. It's part of his job to write books and be all of the stuff that he's being. So just want to make sure that we got that part out there
Yep.
before we got too far out there. But yeah, no, go ahead, Trevor.
And to add to what you said, Kevin, for parents, because I deal a lot with parents, and I'm talking Assassin's Creed, I'm talking GTA. I'm not saying let your 10 or 12-year-olds play those games. They're not designed for 10 or 12-year-olds. Parents should be involved with what games their kids are playing. Don't just buy the latest game and hand it off to them. I know when I was in Scouts, I had some parents getting upset about something. And I'm like, are you serious? This is what we're like wasting our time getting upset about. And they got mad at me for saying wasting our time. I said, hold on. Your kids just the other night were talking about the online playing they were doing with Call of Duty. Well, yeah. Folks, you're upset about this, whatever it was, I don't remember. But you say it's okay for them to get online and shoot other people and be on a channel with adults cussing and swearing. Stop a minute. And they're like, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. In other words, you're not really involved with your kids. You gave them the video game and just let it go. And now this is what you want to focus on. But you got to balance. If you're going to be upset with something here, be upset here too. So parents, be involved with your kids, know what games they're playing, maybe check out the games and get them age appropriate games. They shouldn't be playing Call of Duty or GTA at 10. And Kevin and I don't need jumped on because we do play GTA. We're not going out there and beating on anybody. I haven't hired a hooker. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not racing my car through the streets. I'm a responsible adult. But because I choose to do that, doesn't mean I'm going into the schools and teaching the kids how to play GTA and talking about the hookers. That's totally not the thing. I can be an adult and do that, but also work with kids. There's plenty of adults that do stuff like that. And that's perfectly fine and acceptable. If you have kids, get a Nintendo. Don't get the iPads for the games. Don't get the PlayStation and Xbox. Get a Nintendo. You can't get a game on Nintendo that's offensive for kids. They're all designed for kids and families. And if you do have PlayStation and Xbox, monitor what they're playing. Look at what they're playing. Look at the darn ratings for once and see what's actually in there. You don't take your kids to see R-rated movies, but you buy them GTA 6. Okay, that makes no sense.
And no, you're right. And let's add this to this. And then they want to take them to church or whatever religious institution, and they got more trauma and stuff and blood and guts in those religious books than what's in GTA and what's in Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Like, be adults, be parents, and think about the stuff that you're buying your children.
yes, absolutely.
I'm not-
My kids played a lot of games, read a lot of books, saw a lot of movies, but I knew every one that they were doing. I knew what it had or didn't have in it. And they didn't grow up to be homicidal maniacs. Yes, being fed a steady litany of that from video games, I understand how that can change a kid's viewpoint and mind. So don't let them play 20 hours of video games. I had a friend that was talking to me saying, I need some help with Zach. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Well, they got D's in school. I'm like, oh, okay. So what are you doing about it? Well, I told them they're not allowed to play Xbox more than 3 hours a night. That's not really a solution. I hate to tell you. Take the Xbox away. They can get at the end of the semester. That's the solution. And they looked at me like I was the weird one. And it's that type of parenting that makes no sense to me. Video games are fun. I love video games and everybody should be allowed to play them. But if they're getting just video games, their viewpoint warps, and it's not a fix to just hand them YouTube and then let them go to their room for the next 6 hours looking at whatever they want on YouTube. That's not the solution either. If you haven't looked at some of the stuff on YouTube or TikTok, then you're not being a good parent in my mind. I'm sorry. And anyone that wants to jump down my throat saying, well, that's kids' privacy. They should be allowed to make their own choices. Yeah, but not without my, being able to monitor it and know what they're doing, because that's my job as a parent. And if you disagree with that, well, I believe that's part of our problem going on right now in the country.
I'll have to amplify that in saying that the best thing that you're talking about is the responsibility and the accountability of being a responsible parent.
Yeah.
How important it is to teaching our children decent behaviors. because that's going to affect them all the way through the rest of their life.
Yep.
So, how critically important is it really to allow that individual your responsibility to be able to use their imagination and turn it into a positive way? I'm going to say for sure, I like driving like Formula One cars. I would love to be able to get onto a track and, man, surely I can't get those expensive automobiles, but well, I forget the name of the video game that on PlayStation that I have played where you're on a track in Germany and you're driving some really super fancy car and you can
Need for Speed or Test Drive.
That's it. Need for Speed. Yeah. Boom. I'm your guy. I loved doing that because I'm not like I could crash. Oh man, I'm done. I'll get another car, figure it out. So for me, I do like the speed, even still to this day. I'm responsible now more than I used to be because I grew up in Michigan, and if you're not going 90 miles an hour down the interstate, you're getting run off the road.
Yep, I hate driving up in Detroit. I will go around Detroit for 7 hours before I drive through it.
Right, but that's where I learned to drive. Not in specifically Detroit, but in Michigan in general. So, anyways, I just like the idea that we're talking about how it's bringing accountability and responsibility in the actual parenting job that you have to teach your children to be able to be responsible for themselves and accountable for their own actions.
And it's not invasion of privacy, because if that kid's watching things or contacting people that they shouldn't, the first thing everybody does is attack the parents. But if a kid complains because a parent is monitoring their phones, parents get attacked because they're not giving them privacy. You can't have both. You can't blame a parent, but also not allow them to invade privacy.
And then look at us. We got drones flying all around the world now. I just saw on a social media platform yesterday, as a matter of fact, Michigan State Police, they've got a drone with red and blue lights on it. I'm like, you're telling me that the MSP is like monitoring traffic using drones instead of driving?
Yep.
How much?
North Carolina's doing it now.
Yeah, and I've seen drones right here in Colorado the same way, and I'm like, why aren't we given the opportunity to just be regular human beings instead of being monitored every moment of our lives? What kind of privacy is that doing for us? So
that it's the, again, it's a catch one way or the other. People complain because, well, there's all these people breaking laws that we don't catch. Well, that's because we have a limited police force. But if we use drones, we can have multiple drones out that's being monitored by just one person. And we can catch more of this and make people safer. But then people are like, well, now I don't have privacy because you're monitoring everywhere and it's drones. And it's typical science that it's not evil or good. It's how it's used. So you can still have multiple drones that are not impinging on people's privacy. But if they're saying my privacy because I'm walking out of Walmart with my shopping cart and that drone was spying on me, stop, folks. You're in public. You're not trying to hide. Everybody sees you anyway. So stop with this. Oh my God, it's impinging on my privacy because it looked at me while I was going across the Walmart shop parking lot. And that's not the issue, folks.
Right. And let me just second this, okay? Your privacy is behind your closed doors at your house, not when you're out there in freaking public.
Right.
When you're driving down the interstate or a highway or a road or whatever, that's not privacy. Now, what you do in your car is privacy, of course, but what you do with your car, such as, i.e., 105 and a 65.
Never done that. Nope. There's no videos of anything like that.
Right. So, and so listen, we're talking about a lot of good stuff, and we're laughing because we're talking about racing and all of that stuff. Folks, if you're watching or listening to us, please, please, please obey traffic laws. Obey
all
laws.
the time.
Remember parental rights. Remember privacy rights. Remember all of those things. If you're parents and you're listening to us, you're worried about what your kids are watching and doing on the video games. Do your research. Do your diligence. Have open conversations with people. Just like we're doing. We're having a good time. We're laughing about Grand Theft Auto. We're laughing about, Need for Speed, Gran Turismo. We're having a phenomenal time up here. But just because we're laughing about it, there are people out there that's doing 150 in the 60.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not
They're
good
just doing
for anybody's
buying
safety.
prostitutes and stuff like that. There's people out there that's stealing, doing vehicular robberies and stuff like that, like Grand Theft Auto. We're not saying that we approve of any of that.
No, we do not
Good.
condone any of that kind of stuff or behavior at
And-
all at
and
any time.
there's events and things. I've seen an ad for this area recently where it's a 1-day thing, I think, coming up in a couple weeks up at the IX Center, that you can basically get rent and drive like a Lamborghini for $320, and you go with a professional driver around a track, and it's like 6-mile track or something like that. And
Wow.
the one I liked was actually the cheapest. It was a Hellcat. And I'm like, are you serious? For $80, I can drive a Hellcat around I might go do this. But there you go. I can go to these things and race cars. I've done it. I did an autocross track in a BMW with a professional driver. One of the coolest experiences ever, because the BMWs are designed to handle, keep things smooth. And these were jacked down a little bit, so they were lower a little bit, and the center of gravity was changed. And we went through S curves, and we had 180 turns and stuff. And the driver is over there. He's like, do what I tell you and you will have the best experience. I'm like, okay. And I'm coming up to a 180. He's like, why are you slowing down? Give it gas. Are you serious? Give it gas. All right. And he like hit the brake, and we're swinging those cars around like professionals because we're listening to these pros. I never felt out of control. I didn't kill anybody, but I got that out of me, because I love the racing games like you do, Trevor. I'm looking to get a rig actually to sit in. So it's like I'm driving with 3 monitors and stuff. Trevor, have you seen the movie Gran Turismo?
Is that the one with the Ford GT?
It's
Or the most recent Gran Turismo, yes, with the young driver.
yes.
Yes, sir, I have,
Okay.
and I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie.
Basically a true story. He was a video game player that raced GT Gran Turismo on PlayStation. They had a contest, and he became a real race driver, and he still races today. He still drives real cars on the track because of his training in video games. Better yet, you know who the stunt driver was for the movie? The real kid that the movie was based on.
I'll be danged.
So if you haven't seen it, Kevin, you should go see it. It's a video game movie on real events. It's a race.
Yeah.
Movie. Fantastic.
Have you seen? You haven't seen it yet, Kevin?
I used to play Gran Turismo, so I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, and I'm like,
I know. I seen your eyes get this big when they're talking about.
brother,
He's talking about the Hellcat and
about the Hellcats and the Lambos and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, God Almighty, can I?
I
go
saw
watch
this part too.
right now.
Right.
My heart was fluttering a little bit, It's like
you gotta
oh
see
God,
Gran
I'm in
Turismo.
love.
I think it's
I am
on
so
Prime.
in love.
If you've got Prime, Kevin, you should watch it this weekend.
No, I
it's
do. I do.
fun.
I want to see it. Like I'm also going to be doing some research to figure out where I can go rent a Hellcat and a Lambo and drive that Joker around it and do that. Like I want to do that because, like, listen, this is a self-disclosure here. I bought a Subaru WRX because of the Need for Speed and the Fast and the Furious and all that. So,
So you're an O'Connell fan, huh?
yeah.
My kids and stepkids, we always joke. I'm gonna get a shirt made that says "Drive it like a Toretto."
I love it.
They're always laughing. They're like, "You don't need to go on 2 wheels around the curves." I'm like, it was not that bad. Shut up.
The lady. So no, you're right. So the lady that I donated, I donated my kidney to her brother. She and I have this argument going on, every time she sees me, she was talking about it's American muscle all day. It's American muscle. And I'm like, nah, it's the import, baby. It's the import all day, every day. And so when I went back down there, I bought her the white Subaru that Mr. Little Nobody had driven when they blew up the submarine, right? That white Subaru, I gifted it to her. I'm like, here you go. This is your little import, honey.
That's awesome.
And so when she went out to the grocery store to whatever later on that evening, she went to Walmart and she saw these little owls of toys or whatever, and she got me an American Muscle. She brought it back to me. She was like, "I need you to open this real quick." Open it up. It's a little blue John Deere tractor.
Nice. Nice.
And so she and I got this little argument going back and forth, this import versus American muscle. And so for me, man, it's the import all day. The only time I will take an American muscle if it is a black 60s Dodge Charger.
Ooh, I I I I love both for different reasons. If I wanted to get into racing now, I'd get an import. There are clubs around here you can actually buy a car and go race your own car. You have specifications and all sorts of stuff. That's what I do. But come on, Trevor, we grew up in the era. It's got to be a muscle car all the time. And I'll tell you, on Forza, I don't know, 3 or 4, I played that and got all the cars opened, and I got 3,000 cars to choose from. I love to get like a Javelin. My uncle had a Javelin, so I drive a Javelin in the game a lot and get on a track where all these kids are racing the imports, and it's so hilarious because you hear ring, 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 and then I go boom, and then we're racing. And yeah, they're fast. They will go and they're gone, and it takes me a bit to catch up. But if they make the mistake of coming anywhere close to me, I'm going bam. My car weighs like 10 times as much as they do, and they go flying off the track and smash. So, you may be faster, but I'm going to play demo derby until I'm number 1 on the track.
Oh God. Oh Lordy.
Okay, so before I know we're running long, we're babbling. Let me say real quick, Mickey will get on me if I don't mention the actual books that I've been coming out with. We've been chatting about so many things. So just a couple months ago, I came out with book 2 of my fantasy series. This is Transgression of Magic. If you guys don't have covers and all that, I'll send you all that if you want. But this is book 2 of my fantasy series. It's a coming of age series. A boy in his world wants to have magic, but everybody does but him. And it's a big journey. The second book here is more about family issues and him dealing with his father that's set up in book 1. So that's the fantasy series. But the one I'm super excited about and just absolutely love is the Oddish Questers Bigfoot case. This is the one I'm really getting into. So what's really fortuitous, you guys may have heard about this recently here in Ohio in March, there was like 24 Bigfoot sightings right by where I live. And that's when I started talking about this book and releasing the book. It just happened to be coincidence. So I was very happy about that. But the series is teenage investigators, their siblings, and they investigate things like Bigfoot. And it's based on my kids and stepkids. They all have characters in the book. They all have their own abilities within the book that they contribute to the team. It's a great book. I kind of tell people if you enjoy Bigfoot, it's as if Lemony Snicket wrote a book about an investigative team. That's how I describe it to people. And the series, I'm working on several other books in the series. I've got a Choose Your Own Adventure. I've got a Princess Bride style book that I'm almost done with coming out. I had a author friend, that his first book was middle grade, and it was called The Monroeville Monster, Monroeville, PA. He made it up. It's like a Bigfoot hunt thing these kids go on. But he realized he was the opposite of me. He's not a kids writer. He started writing dystopian fiction, zombies and werewolves and vampires. And so he took this book off the market. So I bought the license to the book from him, and I'm giving it the Princess Bride treatment with my characters, writing, a beginning and end, and things, little notes and stuff in the middle of the book. But it's basically his book, but it's as if my characters discovered it and they're talking about it and stuff as you read through it. So that's coming out pretty soon. I'm working on it. So that series I'm super excited about. The Bigfoot Case. It's a fun book. When I went back through the edits, it'd been a couple months. I was laughing at some of my own things, and at the end, I literally tensed up. Like, oh my God, are they going to be able to do this? And I'm like, you idiot, you wrote the damn thing. So I'm like, I must have done a good job if I'm the one reading it, getting tensed up at the ending. So very excited and happy with the results of this book. So I had to mention those, since, we didn't really talk about books much at all, which is great and fun.
we spoke about the gaming book, and then we just got off on the 30-minute, 45-minute tangent about video games,
which happens. It is what it is.
Well, I'm glad, Stephen, that you brought that up, because out here in Colorado, guess what is a big thing? Bigfoot.
Yep.
And that was what the next question I was going to talk to you about before you started, was that how does Bigfoot fit into all this? Because the amount of connectivity to the state here in Colorado it has, how does that impact the younger folks?
So I will say, other than I think Washington, Ohio's like number 2 in Bigfoot sightings. So we are huge.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And I've always been involved with it. I liked this stuff when I was a kid. I had all these books, and then my son discovered all my books and took them, and he got into it. And my son, when he was a teenager, actually wrote his own book, and he did talks at the Mothman Festival. He did talks at various Bigfoot festivals around the area. So we got back into it, which is why I started writing the stories for my kids. But now that all the kids are gone, I miss it. So I write the Bigfoot stories so I can go back to the festivals. That's my excuse. But I tie it all in because, again, are they real? Are they not real? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? I don't really care. I think there could be something, but I think also it's a good vehicle for the kids' imaginations, which we've talked about. Sure. In the imagination, whether you really believe in Bigfoot or not. The kids, I have these kits. They are young cryptozoologist researcher field kits that kids can get from my table. And they have a hat. They have a collection bag. They have a magnifying glass, a pencil to take notes with, a notebook, a whistle, so if you get lost in the woods. But it has all these things to get kids like, oh, maybe I can find Bigfoot. Click, there goes their imagination. That's my whole reason for doing it. And it gets them out in the woods. They're right. Out doing so what? Maybe you only find coon tracks. Great. Make a plaster cast of coon tracks. That'll be a much better story. Kevin, I love video games. I've played video games. But how often do you have stories that you relate to others about some video game session? Sometimes, World of Warcraft raid, somebody, Leroy Jenkins, that's a story, but just sitting there playing through a game, there's not much story for you to tell people. But you tell them about going out in the woods, looking for tracks, finding these coon tracks and whatever. Now kids have a story, and that sparks their imagination. So I use that as the vehicle, video games and the Bigfoot stuff. The other thing I use that to get kids interested, and I don't know how well you can see the picture there. That is a picture of me with my wolf. I tell everybody about my wolf Hunter. He's a hybrid. And all the kids are always like, oh, bring him. There's reasons not to bring a 120-pound wolf around a lot of people. But I do talk about that because that's the other thing and I understand this in video games, but with any of our entertainment media, we think of wolves as evil, as bad, mostly because of fiction. The big bad wolf, the evil wolf always attacking the people on the plains. And wolves are not like that at all. They're friendly. They're jovial. In fact, Hunter rolls over on his back to give us his belly. And we're like, Hunter, the other wolves are laughing at you. He doesn't care. But I use that also to show kids, fiction isn't the truth. You got to understand that. And wolves are not what you see in fiction. They're not like that. And I use that as another vehicle to get through to kids. Plus, he's in the book. He's one of the characters in this Bigfoot book. And I've got another story idea I might write with him in it here pretty soon. So wow. There's all the books.
And what a powerful conversation this entire thing has been. Even I remember Kevin when we first started out, he's like, man, this is going to be great. This is already great. Here we are, coming on.
It was blowing completely out of the water because I did not.
Absolutely.
I did not expect. Look. I ain't gonna lie. I had a bias. Okay, and when I say bias, not a negative bias. Not a no. Like kind of like, okay, you fit in this type of box type of deal, right? That type of bias. And folks who are listening to us, a bias can be positive, negative, neutral, what have you. It's not always negative. Okay. And so I never expected this guy to come on here and be the person he is, just completely shattered every thought process that I had. It has been a phenomenal.
Well, thank you. It's been fun with talking to you guys. Here, let me break some of your stereotypes, Kevin. How about this? What if I told you I was a black belt, for one thing, 7 years studying in a Korean martial arts called Kuksul Won. I also, when I was in Boy Scouts, I made Eagle at the age of 13 and a half. So that was, or 14 and a half. I apologize, 14 and a half. And I also used to backpack, and I've been to the top of some mountains out in New Mexico, backpacking. And when I say backpacking, we had a burro race, and I got drugged by the burro and cracked my head. And we had to do a 20-minute walk if we wanted to get to the place where the Jeep could get to us, to take us to where the helicopter could get me to take me to the hospital. So that type of backpacking, literally everything on my back. We had no cell phones. We did not see civilization. So how's that for breaking stereotypes?
That is
real quick, Stephen. Hold on, Kev.
Okay, go ahead.
Stephen, just real quick. I spent about 8 years in New Mexico. What mountains specifically?
Cimarron area. That was where our base camp was.
Was that out anywhere in Union County?
I have no idea. It's been so long. I was a teenager at the time. All I remember is the town was Cimarron.
Cimarron, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's northern New Mexico, right within about an hour and a half away from where I lived for about 8 years, out in a little crossroads town called Clayton.
Oh yeah, right by Clayton. I remember Clayton. Yeah, talking about that. We went through it, I believe. That's a beautiful country. I mean, where I live, it's so different of a country for landscape and stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
But nice mountains. Nice. Yeah. A lot of hiking and backpacking at the time.
Wow. Small world.
Everything doesn't happen by accident. Nothing happens by accident.
No, absolutely not. So listen, let's wrap up, because listen, I can keep you going and going and going.
It's Good Friday. It's a holiday weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. One heck of a Good Friday.
Monday morning. Okay. It'll be the longest episode ever. But I can keep, so I don't want to do that. I don't want to do everything all in one episode. We're definitely going to be bringing you back. This is first visit. Okay. Because we could have went deeper into many areas. We could have expanded on many other areas. But that's what a podcast is. That's what we do on the show. Is we talk, we have fun. We laugh, we get serious, we shed some tears if need be.
That's right.
Right. And so, that being said, folks, stay tuned for future shows with this young man. Now, let's start wrapping this up. I got a few questions for you. If people want to hire you as a mentor, get you to go on their show as a speaker, or maybe even do some public speaking for you, maybe purchase some of your books. Where can they find your books? How can they contact you? Things like that.
So everything's on my website. It has links to everywhere, all the books, all the social media. It's SA-Schneider. So SA-Schneider, SCHNEIDER, NEIDER.com. I know it's not the easiest, and everyone argued against that. And I'm like, I'll live with it. It fits. So that's where everything's at. All the links to social media. But if you're looking for me on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, it's SAS Author. You can find me there.
All right. If there's one thing, somebody's watching this or listening to it, if there's one thing you want them to take away, what is that?
What I've told other people, I have the plan to fix every single problem we have in our country, but it's a 20-year plan. Here's what the plan is. We pay our teachers what we have been paying our politicians, and pay our politicians what we've been paying our teachers. I guarantee whatever 20 years of generation of kids that graduate, that will fix all the problems we have. That I guarantee that's what it would do. That's the message. That's why I do what I do, working with kids. It's funny. I think a large part of that came from the TV show MacGyver, the old one in the 80s. I was watching a few episodes recently, going back, one of those comfort things, watching old shows. And I was watching, I'm like, a lot of my thinking came from that character. And I met Richard Dean Anderson, and he is way more like Jack from Stargate than he is MacGyver, even though he created and influenced that character as he acted on it. But he's much more like Jack from Stargate in real life. But that's, that was the thing. I see a lot. I watched a couple episodes. I'm like, this is where I got the working with the kids, helping the kids. That's the future. That's what really matters in a lot of this. And some of the ways to work with them, throwing them in okay. I'm going to brag. I had a podcast for a while for new authors. And one of the authors I got to talk to was Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark on DS9 and Principal Snyder on Buffy. So I got to talk to him.
Wow.
Yeah. But the even better part was it was right during COVID. So we got done with the podcast, which was great. And he goes, do you have a couple moments? I'm like, yeah, sure. What's up? He's like, I've had COVID. I've been stuck in the hotel. I'm bored out of my mind. Would you want to just sit and talk for a while? Oh my God, are you kidding me? So for an hour and a half, I just chatted with Armin Shimmerman like we were just sitting at the kitchen table. Great moment in my life. But one of the things he does is he teaches a class in California. It's on Shakespeare rhetoric, to teach kids how to read Shakespeare to enjoy it. And he does a thing he does acting. He does a lot of acting on stage. And they do a thing where they go into schools, they go into juvenile detention centers, they go into troubled schools and show them the acting and get kids interested. And that clicked with me because that's the MacGyver thing to do. And I told him what I'd love to do with my video game classes is get into a school that has troubled kids, that's a low income school, where the kids look and say, where am I going with my life? What's it matter? I'll join a gang. I'll take drugs because life sucks. I'd love to go into one of those schools, show these kids they can do video games. They don't need to be rich. They don't need to be in a different school, that they can do video games right there. They can go to the library and use a computer to make video games and have a career waiting for them. I'd love to do that and inspire some kids to pull themselves out of that situation. And later in life, have some kids come up and say, you know what, you changed my life. You got me to see things different. And now I create video games for a living and I make people happy with it. That's that. Oh, I can die happy now. That's what I would love to have happen.
That's huge, Stephen.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the poignant moment of this entire episode. And that is, out of every episode at the tail end, we always ask our honored guests, and we are very humbly privileged to have had you specifically with us today in all the moments that we shared. Man, what an awesome episode this has been.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
In the aspect of that, one thing we always ask our guests at the end of the episode, if there was a call to action for you to advise anyone that wanted to try to forward progress, move forward in this aspect of their life personally, what would their call to action be from you?
both writing and video games can be done pretty simply, pretty easily by anybody. And if you do either one of them, don't try and write the novel that's going to change the world and be the great American novel, and don't try and make some big AAA video game by yourself. Write a short story, make a little video game that's like Space Invaders, something simple, and accomplish that. Because a lot of our problem, I think, in our country, mental health wise, if we circle back to that, is people feel their lives mean nothing. I get up, I go to work for somebody else. I'm told what to do. It doesn't matter how well I do my job. I just keep doing it. And I go home and life sucks. And I think that's the cycle people are stuck in. So you get people that write stories. I talk to authors all the time that have written stories. They're like, oh my gosh, I just love it. It gives me something to do. It relaxes me and blah, blah. I don't care if anyone buys it. I'm just having so much fun doing it. And now they have a purpose in their life. So, that's what everybody needs, is that purpose. And for me, I use the vehicles of writing and video games to show kids and adults that you can have a purpose, you can do something worthwhile and enjoy it and be very creative doing it. So go out and don't get a book to write. Just go write. That's what you need to do. Whether it's on your computer, your phone, or a yellow tablet, just do that.
And I can't tell you how grateful we have been to have you with us here today in the One Moment Podcast.
And Kevin, I thank you for us keeping back and forth multiple times. We've had to change things around, so I appreciate that we got on and we're able to do this. So thank you guys.
Absolutely, man. I have really, really enjoyed it. And I'm gonna tell you, like I always tell my folks from Mickey, you don't have to go back through Mickey to schedule an appointment unless you want to. Totally up to you. You just let me know when you want to come back on.
Our agreement with Mickey, though, is if he gets us the deal, we go through him for any of those same deals. So I will follow up with him to get back on with you guys, because like I said,
it's totally so no that's totally your prerogative. Most of the time his folks just reach out to me, and when I schedule you, I always CC him on it anyways.
Okay, good.
He is aware of like what that. So yeah, Mickey is absolutely cool with that. So if you want to go back through him, that's fine with me. But totally up to you. I always tell my folks, it's your call.
Got it. Okay. And I'd love to come back on. I've got more books coming, and there's so many things we could talk about with video games, mental health issues, and even fantasy and reading and kids. I mean, there's all of that, so much.
Our most important resource that we have to maintain the quality of is our kids and our grandkids.
Yeah.
Amen on that
and their descendants. That's where our jobs are really.
Yeah. My son helped run a video or a comic book store for a couple of years. And now he's a librarian and he absolutely loves it. And his favorite thing is helping the kids get library books and get library cards and find books. He called me like the second day on the job. He says, "Father, you got to listen to this. I had a 5-year-old come in today, want a library card. I helped him get the library card. And then he came running back up later to show me the first book he got. He said, and it was Batman. And he's like, it made his day. So you're so happy.
Nice.
So I said, oh, good, Colin. I told him, I'm so glad you're enjoying this and you're so pleased by it. So and then I had to joke with him. I said, so it seems that I beat you sufficiently growing up. So all's good. And he's like, yeah, whatever.
Well, folks, y'all have heard it best from the one and only Mr. Steven Schneider. With that being said, folks, again, use your resources. Check us out. We're across the board on social media, all platforms. So is Mr. Steven. If you follow him, follow us. And if you follow us, follow him. Thank you again, Mr. Steven. I do appreciate it. I am humbled by your experience, your knowledge, and we look forward to having you back on.
Thank you, guys. It's been fun.
Absolutely. I'm going to end the live, so don't go anywhere.